right, so this is Cooper. He was cohort 5 at the Actor Studio Drama School. Got to talk to Robert De Niro, and he got in basically, I think, from Sarah Jessica Parker. In Sex and the City, he played what I thought was a cigarette man, but the character had an actual name. I'll have to go back and see that. But the cigarette smoking man was like a working title for the character. And it was, anyway, that's how he kind of got into the whole entertainment field, I guess you could call it. So here's some things that he just laid out so I don't forget. So he worked on Maestro for 5.5 years before Stars Born. He had a dialect coach coming in to helping him with the melodic speaking voice of Leonard Bernstein. A lot of people don't know who Leonard Bernstein is, but I've always remembered Leonard Bernstein's name being mentioned in an REM song a while back. It's the End of the World as We Know It, and I Feel Fine, that song. But anyway, I read a little bit about Leonard Bernstein and realized he was a composer. And I've heard also that he studied composing as well for the other, within the 5 years of studying for the role, which I think is a very long time to study for a role. Regardless, he did this through Stars Born, and then Spielberg approached him, I guess, to help him with funding, and they took off with Maestro, which I think was like up to 2 years in production or something. It's been going on for a while. Here's my predictions on it. I'm just listening to some of the interview. I'm almost certain he's going to get the award for Best Actor, but I think it might be up for Best Picture. So he wrote this script, and he also produced it. One of the things they talked about with Leonard Bernstein was he had this incredible charisma. And I've never been in the same room with Cooper, but I've talked to some of his students, or I'm sorry, not students, so they're students now, but he was a student at the time when I heard about him. I talked to some of his teachers, which I think one of them was Teva. She was a dancer. She was in charge of teaching what's known as Alexander. It's an Alexander technique, which helps you with voice, using the entire body from the toes to the head, focusing on getting rid of inhibition and fear. But anyway, he said he focused a lot on charisma for this role, which I think is great. And it's interesting because I didn't expect him to be any different than any other student at the Actor Studio, and they probably all had charisma. But he was chosen to go on and star for this. And one of my dreams, and I don't know, I say this to Linda, was maybe after he reaches the pinnacle and wins this ultimate award to the actor, which is especially the American actor, which is the Oscar, the Academy Award, maybe there'll be some leeway and room for some of the other students in one of the cohorts, hopefully me, to get a shot at cinema rather than just vlogging. But that's kind of a dream of mine, because I'm working on a script right now. I've been working on it for about 4.5 years, but this is amazing because he not only worked on the character, as in the performance, and I think many acting teachers, everyone from David Mamet to all these other acting teachers, have talked about that acting is more on the lines of like dance or music. It's an art, right? It's an active thing that you're doing. While writing is mostly in the mind, right? So it's using the body and the mind at its most pinnacle aspect. But he said it took him 5 years to bring this charisma over onto the screen, which you're seeing in the trailer. You're seeing a performance just like what Brendan Fraser brought with Charlie in The Well. It's just incredible charisma that's coming out. Another thing they did, something with his eyes. I don't know, it looked really weird, and some of the black and white things. Just weird things they've done with some of the, not weird, but artistic kind of things they've done with some of the actual movie is interesting. That's what I've noticed, is like, it doesn't really look like Cooper. It looks like someone else. They use prosthetics and stuff. They must have done something to the eyes as well. Or maybe that's our imagination working. But anyway, it's a cool interview. It's with Colbert. Check it out. This could be our next Oscar award-winning actor. So, and hopefully he'll pay tribute to ASDS, Actor Studio Drama School. Hopefully maybe the New School, because the New School, we were part of the New School University at that time, even though it switched over to PACE. And hopefully maybe PACE too, because PACE is now the new home for the Actor Studio Drama School. It'll be a big win for everyone behind that. We'll see. It's coming out probably in February. We'll find out. And I'm going to probably check it out on Redbox. Best wishes, Cooper. All right. So I've had some crazy ideas of using some more modern music throughout it. I don't like to put a lot of music in the screenplay because then it's like, well, I don't know if I'm as 100% about that song. The few songs that I am 100% on is The Year of the Cat by Al Stewart. It's a beautiful piano piece, and I think it's going to sound good on the echo dot for diegetic music here. This is going to be the first page, which is in the first minute of the movie. I do have this little thing I added here called the vlogger's narrator voice, because ultimately this movie is about vloggers and cinema. That's why it's such a crazy script. I want to bring attention to the modern day vlogger YouTube in the cinematic field. It's kind of my Citizens Kane or my Clifford Odets Golden Boy, which I need to read Golden Boy, by the way. But Golden Boy represented something at the time. It represented capitalism and freedom, and things like that. Same thing. Citizen Kane, of course, is... we always aspire to be Orson Welles, but I think it brought in a lot of different mediums. It brought in the newspaper and brought in the newspaper man or the creator of news and the power of that, right? This is bringing in the power of the vlogger. The important thing about it is, even though I got all these different type of characters, like I've got like a UFC fighter, I've got this Grim Life Collective characters like Grim Vlogger and Vlogpire from, I think they're called the Gothic Vlogger Connection. So I had to use that because I think there's just a lot of comic weight in the fact that they're Gothic vloggers and they get killed by a Gothic creature like a werewolf. It's a horror comedy, but it brings in the vlogger all the time. Even the favor driver, I think, was hinted at as a vlogger, and he gets killed by the werewolf too. There's a favor driver in it. There's an Uber driver. I think bringing in Uber is good. Favor, bringing in all these components of what people deal with, not only as vloggers, but in the gig economy, and you see it all over YouTube. It's addressing that as much as possible. The scenes I added here was to make Gerald Ullman's character more gothic, and I call him throughout the script Gerald Ullman III. Just like, you know, the character that Bram Stoker created, which was Dracula, was based on Vlad the Impaler the Third. I think he had a name like the Third. He's a stoic character, but he's a person. Now, if this went to Oldman, I gotta move this basket thing, sir. If this went to Gary Oldman, the first thing I would tell Gary Oldman is this character is a dork. That's what I use, the D-O-R-K. The word is dork, right? It's a comic character, but it's not comedy like Mel Brooks. It's comedy because of the dorkish aspect of this guy. He takes vlogging far too serious, but he does it because it's his only escape drug from his failed marriage and life and his failed life as a minister. He's a backsliding minister that fell into this crazy life, delusional life of YouTube, which many people have done. There's, you know, I don't want to say a danger to it, but since there is an actual real werewolf presented in the actual movie, then there's a use for him. But that's what Gerald Ullman wants the most, is he wants to be useful. He wants to be a person in society that can help. And if he kills this werewolf, then he will be helping. And the guy that he's after is not a werewolf. It's a misunderstanding. But his wife is, which they find out later, which is Rainy Love. She's actually really a werewolf. So even though you're thinking, oh my God, these people are crazy, you know, like John Blacksmith, his partner that he finds out in Oregon to help him with the Sylvan weaponry, and he goes on the quest with him. Even though you're like, these guys are probably accusing this ex-UFC fighter of being a werewolf when actually he's not. Yes, the audience is thinking that. but then you find out towards the end that she's actually the werewolf. You don't really ever see the werewolf, so we don't know for sure what's killing off some of these vloggers. But I'm just kind of showing you, I'm just kind of scrolling through it, just kind of give you an idea of any new changes. I did add about 3 pages with Gerald Oldman. No, it's about a page and a half. I worked on it for about an hour and a half. I only get windows of time to really work on it because I'm still working. I got a lot of this off of YouTube and also being in the gig economy. And I think it's an original script. These are original characters I created. It could be something nice. I'm just going through some of this, all this so you can see. The Whitby Abbey stuff I think is important because it brings kind of an epic aspect to Gerald Ullman III. You know, because he's standing before Whitby Abbey and just kind of reading a plaque about Bram Stoker. And it would be an homage to Oldman because I don't know if he did this whenever he played Dracula. Gary Oldman, I don't know if he went to Whitby Abbey, but I'm sure it was probably mentioned. I know there was a documentary about his role as Dracula, which I always thought he should have won Best Actor for that. Let me see if I can just find it. I just put in Abbey right here. A-B-B-E-Y. It'll go right there too. There's Whitby Abbey. There's the Whitby Abbey scene. This is the newest part that's been added. Overcast morning. There's thunder and lightning over the Whitby Abbey. Distant thunder grumbles. You see Gerald Ullman III walks up to the green bench seat and reads the gold lettering on the dark plaque fastened by 4 gold bolts. It really is. There is really a bench there. There's a records with his smartphone here. You can see that he's a vlogger. A gale of wind arises. Gerald Ullman III cups the camera's microphone with his palm. He speaks in the fuzzy dead cat windshield microphone with stern authority. I'm obviously talking about vloggers. He starts with just reading, you know, the view from this spot inspired Bram Stoker, 1847 to 1912, to use Whitby as the setting of part of his world-famous novel Dracula. This seat was erected by Scarborough Borough Council and the Dracula Society to mark the 68th anniversary of Stoker's death. The plaque was dedicated to Stoker on April 20th, 1980. This footage is for Monster Quest. I am Gerald Ullman III. Vlog not over yet, not quite yet. We cut here. He holds his hand before the camera lens, making a clapper with his fingers and palm. Gerald Ullman III, cut, and then cut to wide shot, well-boned arch, okay? So this here is some of them right here. You can see page 51 going through here. More little scenes with Dracula and stuff. There's a dark room too that I added. This is before Grace makes coffee. Gerald dark room for photography. So he's in a dark room here, just kind of developing his own photography and stuff. So he's a little older, so he's got the old school photography that he still does as well. He's developing one of a vampire bat that he took a photo of. And then here, Dracula Experience Museum near Whitby Abbey, night, angle and back wall right here. Yeah, no, just give me 1 second. We have curtains, splits before red bulb, and all this stuff. This is stuff I've found off another vlogger's site from Grim Life Collective. This will solidify. I think it can be something. I just wanted to show a little bit more here, all right? And we'll post this for tomorrow. Today is, hang on, give me a second. Today is Thursday, November 30th of 2023. I just wanted to vlog that moment right there. All right, it's November 30th, 2023, and welcome to the Please Subscribe Show. Talk about acting. All right, so nothing real special today on acting, but I wanted to talk about actors that may have anxiety or maybe a nervous condition or something about them that's not completely normal with everyone else. My first thing is use it, right? Find a way to work it into everything that you do and get past it. I'm going to give you an example of a great actor, Peter Falk. He had one eye. Sammy Davis Jr. only had one eye too. And, you know, Peter Falk was by far one of our greatest actors ever. He used it. You ever noticed there's several things Peter Falk would do? In Columbo, he would always kind of look over this way. One more question, ma'am. I've got one more question for you. He always knew how to use his false eye. No one even, to this day, people don't even realize that he had one. And I don't even see it in his work. He was that masterful of an actor. He could hide not only his own anxieties, because we all have it. We're all broken people, ultimately. Not only could he hide his anxiety, but he could use a crutch as if it wasn't even there. And this is where we're headed to more so with actors. You know, I always say Jesus Christ, his army is the sick, the weak, and the poor. And there are people that can represent him as well. I think even as actors too, because he told stories. I was told otherwise by another pastor that that's not the case. That we're to be sincere, you know. And sincerity, you can't necessarily completely hide. When you're, you know, sincerity is something that shines through. Truth, right? That's underneath the underlying thing. Okay, that's all I wanted to say on the aspect of acting, is that call upon God to help you through things. All artists should, because there's a higher power out there. Anyway, that's another thing too. You know, Joe Chaikin wrote The Presence of an Actor. The presence can't be taught. They say Marlon Brando had this great presence, and whether it came out of anxiety or his imagination or it came out of his craziness, we don't know. But when he would walk out in front of people, everyone would look. There's Marlon Brando, and everyone would look at him, even when he was on stage. Johnny Depp, huge presence. When he walked out to be interviewed by James Lipton, everyone had their fixation right there on him the entire time. I'm not calling him a nut, but he's played a lot of nuts. But he has a huge presence. Anyway, it can be something that maybe you're hiding, right? The light is being hid to a certain extent, or not, or maybe it's shining through. Regardless, where presence comes from was something we've always talked about from the beginning. When someone would go out on stage and say, that person has an incredible presence, and it was something you could carry as an actor when you'd walk out, and you knew you had it. You didn't know where it was come from. It was like a mysterious thing. And The Presence of the Actor is a book written by Joe Chaikin. It might be something you could peek at. It may give you some clues. There's also Truth and False by David Mamet, and there's tons of stuff written by Strasberg and Stella Adler. But one thing that I do, I want to talk about this, is it's just kind of a ritual. I'll go through tongue twisters, and I don't know if it's, you know, absolutely necessary, but I'll do it to kind of tell my mind and to tell my body that we're going to be speaking soon. So I do one from Gilbert and Sullivan, okay, and I'll give it to you. It goes, to sit in solemn silence on a dull dark dock, in a pestilential prison with a lifelong lock, awaiting the sensation of a short sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black block. And I try to focus on the consonants and see what I needed to work on there. Then I'll switch over to another one, you know. Susie sells seashells by the seashore, or whether the weather be cold or whether the weather be hot, we'll weather the weather, whatever the weather, whether we like it or not. A big black bug bit a big black bear, and the big black bear bled blood. And unique New York, New York, unique, unique New York, New York, unique. And red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, and there's tons of them. So you have those in your back pocket, realizing to yourself, wait a minute, I can speak. And you get that out of the way, and you do all your choppiness and all that stuff, and you get through, you use it as like a punching bag for speaking. These little tongue twisters, okay? I recommend having a few of them in your back pocket. You can even have a monologue too. You know, I have a Shakespeare monologue from Hamlet's Act 4, Scene 4 that I have drilled into me over 30 years. That sometimes I just do, you know, just throw it out there at a dinner party or something. Songs, learning new songs. I write songs all the time, and then you learn new songs and you sing along. Singing. You know, here's another thing that we used to do. We used to throw our voices. We would use the word hello. right? So we would picture our voice in our hand, and you can even do it while you're driving, because I do a lot of driving, and you can throw your voice out into the audience, right? Hello! And then you picture where the voice goes. It's an imagination process too. Hello! And you picture it landing out there. It works on the imagination as well. There's all these different things I've seen actors do, but I wanted to talk about that, about speech, and throw it in there, because, you know, even if you're sitting there with a Strasbergian book and studying the method, you still may need to be understood, you know, in the speech pattern, you know, on the scene with the speakers, right? So don't neglect that, because you'll be a speaker as an actor. Okay? Thank you. It's about a 7-minute piece right there. Right, gas stays stable at 279 like it was yesterday. All right, spreading joy, one order at a time. Jolly Town, 99-cent corn dog.